Welcome, Anders Almgren, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank you all for inviting us and having us over here. I think that I speak for all the three cities in this room that it's a great acknowledgement to actually to pick out a few cities that you try to get the best possible possibilities to run a bit ahead and then share the knowledge that we all reach together. And I couldn't be more proud than to be in the same room as Uppsala and Stockholm that are really spearheading the climate change in Sweden. So now I'm experiencing the slow technology. Is it the right one?
Yes, the right one. You just have to be decisive about it.
I'm more for like left. So
yeah.
Yeah. So here you see the smog over the city of Lund. No, not really. Yeah. In our scope to be a climate neutral city by 2030, it's actually we are now in the process to renew our climate goals. So the participation within within this program couldn't be better timed. So, and this is we already put the foot on the pedal, so to speak, in more than one sense, and within this collaboration, I think we can go even further. So now we are working on how to involve more people in our strategies, and you heard a lot of examples from Stockholm and Uppsala doing more or less the same thing. Also, as all the participants within this program, we are on the road for mission-oriented innovation, and it's also about to show others the way how to point out the road to how to become climate-neutral cities. The scope for our example is the whole territory, including the city municipalities. We have several villages and large rural areas. In more sense than one, Lund is very much like an Uppsala, but a bit smaller. So we also have the difference between the city center and the big surrounding urban rural areas. We are looking at the emissions. We target the emissions for the territory, the whole territory. It's about phasing out the fossil fuels and minimizing other emissions. And now also to reach the goal for 2030, we're also on the road for carbon sink and carbon storage. We firmly decided that all the carbon storage and carbon sinks are things we should be able to provide for ourselves. It's not about buying excuses in other countries or in other spots. So very much like the predecessors you heard before me, it's about to have a mission-oriented innovation progress. And we are now establishing a cross-sector innovation team. I can show you a bit about that later. But it's also to map all the knowledge and all the research that we already have to fill in the dots, so to speak, between the knowledge that already exists, but also to address what knowledge do we actually lack. And we have a special case study that we just started focusing on energy. And the result is supposed to be a viable and agile action plan that actually also delivers. It's not only to put nice papers in a booklet, but it's about to be in the workshop and actually deliver. We focus a lot on energy, mobility, and circular economy. I think concerning mobility and energy, we are one of the cities that actually are in the very front. But concerning circular economy, we are not really leader of the pack. There we have a road to some travel to do, but we have also good other cities in Sweden that can inspire us. I hope it will be easier to fight the climate change than fight this PowerPoint. There it is. And our way to do this, very much as the other cities told, is to use the innovation processes and the innovation mechanics, so to speak, that's already in place. And I think it's a huge responsibility for a city like ours in Lund. These are some of the famous examples of innovations from the city: the Bluetooth technology, the GSM technology, ultrasound diagnostics, the first computer printer. You can just to name a few. A city that actually been able, not the city organization, but people in or out of the city, been able to come up with these innovations. You can use more or less the same mechanics to tackle the climate change, and we've been doing that for a couple of years. But participation within this program with up the tempo even further. Our commitment already in place is to reduce the emissions by 50% compared to 1990 by year 2000, and we already reached that target. We're also on the mission to reduce the emissions by 80% by 2030, but also being carbon neutral by that date. So you can see we have a challenge ahead when it comes to carbon storage and other methods. And city operations is already fossil fuel free. These are some of the track record and actually the road why we are where we are. We focus on the Agenda 21, like many other Swedish cities. It was really the alarm clock for many of us, and that was actually our first stepping stone in 1997. And as we heard from Stockholm, it's also been it's the best start this kind of trip can take when the politics from left to right actually agree on it. From our point of view, the Lundamats traffic strategy has been very important. I may say that we are a good example, not good enough, but a good example how to tackle the emissions in traffic, and that's why. And the result is only the result since we started so early, so to speak. Our program and our commitment for climate change is called Lunda Eco, and the first edition was in 2006. And the structure has been more or less the same, but the targets and the different methods has been further developed through the years. And now we are working on the third edition of Lunda Eco, and it will be released in next year. And here you can also see some of our achievements. We didn't win the World Championships like Uppsala did, but we were second best in Sweden after Uppsala. So if you should be beaten, you should be beaten by the best. Yeah. We also focus a lot on green economy. When we divested from fossil fuels, but we also issued our first green bond in 2017. I think the first city was Gothenburg, a couple of years ahead. It's a really good example, and this is one of the things I always mention for the Swedish Prime Minister, how to fund the Swedish high-speed train system. We couldn't find a better way. We never borrowed money that cheap, and we never did those as much good things for the money as from this issued bond. So that's a recommendation. And we also have the first local council on climate politics, and we have the chairman actually in the room, yes? Lena Ney, so also on the board for Viable Cities. And this is one approach I really can recommend, to bring scientists together to be able to review your politics, see that you stay on track, and not only tap you on the back when you do the good things, but also tell you to stay focused. So very much like this is more or less the comparative results that we saw from Stockholm before, but presented in another way. And you can see here that something messed up my picture there, but you can see some of the origins for the emissions are harder to tackle than others. And even though we are one of the best in the field in fossil-free and carbon-neutral transportation, you can see that the transportation is still our biggest challenge.
That's the blue field.
That's the blue field in the bottom. Yeah, it got lost in translation, so to speak. And these are some of the recent projects that are in the pipeline and leaving the pipeline. We've been part of a large European smart energy refurbishment program, very successful, called Cityfy. We are now building, as we speak, the world's largest low-temperature district heating system. Some years ago, we started a new green power plant just outside the city. We have a waste management system where you sort out 8 different fractions at your home. It was invented in Lund, and now it's used in some 40 or 50 different cities in Sweden. We are investing in a new tramline system, inaugurated next year. We have now the largest investment in electric roads in Sweden. The list is quite long. And you also saw the example from Stockholm, which actually really challenged others when they, in 2017, experimented with carbon capture due to pyrolysis. And we also been in the field for a while, and we actually put all those biocoal in some soccer fields. So we have the largest soccer field in the world with also is a carbon storage. So, you know, you're always based on something. Looking ahead, as I said, we are now addressing the new Lunda Eco. And what we have to do now is to bring along the community and the inhabitants in a much more participating way than before. I think, to conclude, I think the reasons for our kind of success, but I think this is what we need to do to stay ahead, is as a Swedish city, you are very much a jack of all trades. You're responsible for almost anything. And I think you have to stay focused on the climate issues in all your different roles. These are just some examples. We are, as a business owner, as an employer, as a landowner, as an owner of vehicles, as an educator, you can address climate change in all these different roles. It's not only buying sustainable food. You can do it in all the ways you actually are a city. And I don't think it's my phone, but maybe it's the time is out. But this is my last slide. And the Swedish cities, we're responsible for our own taxations. We can bring in the money. We are the local planning authority. We have the planning monopoly. We live in the best welfare system in the world. If some have the muscles to make this happen, it's the Swedish cities, I might say. And if we have the muscles, we should also use them. So this is a word from Pippi Longstocking, one of the famous figures in Swedish child literature. And she said, if you're strong, you have to be good. So let's be good.
Thank you so much, Anders.